Okay, so if you're stuck in that cycle, feeling constantly overwhelmed, like you're busy all the time but not really getting the important stuff done, and you feel like you never have enough time for what truly matters to you, well, this deep dive is really designed to help you stop just reacting to all the chaos. It's about starting to reclaim control over your most valuable resource, your time, and hopefully finding some genuine, felt freedom in your life.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah, today we're exploring something that it kind of trips up so many people. It's this paradox, right? This idea that discipline is like rigid, restrictive, a chore. But the deep truth, and this is backed by philosophy, psychology, modern productivity stuff, is that it's actually the most direct path to liberation.
That really jumped out at me when I was digging into these sources you shared. It's a fascinating mix we've got here. There's wisdom from, ancient Stoics like Epictetus, then the really straightforward stuff from someone like Jocko Willink, habit science from James Clear, productivity insights from Cal Newport, Greg McKeown, and some really compelling psychological studies too. Right. And our mission today is basically to unpack all of this together, to really understand how embracing discipline, especially around how you manage your attention, your time, your habits, isn't about limiting your options. It's actually about building a life that feels more intentional,
Yeah.
more effective, and ultimately truly free. Free from that tyranny of urgency and, everyone else's demands.
Okay, let's start with that feeling you mentioned right at the top, because I know it hits home for so many of us. I mean, myself included. It's that modern hustle trap.
Yeah.
You're busy from the moment you wake up, maybe checking emails before your feet even hit the floor, racing through a packed schedule, working late. You feel productive because you're doing so much stuff, constantly in motion.
Exactly.
Mm.
And yet, despite all that frantic activity, you still feel behind. You're putting in the hours, definitely. But your personal goals, maybe that creative project you keep putting off, or spending real quality time with family, getting healthier, even just having quiet time to think they feel perpetually out of reach. Your calendar looks full,
Yeah.
right? But your life doesn't feel full in the ways that actually matter to you.
Yeah, it feels like you're running as fast as you possibly can, but you're on a treadmill. You're not actually moving closer to where you want to be. And the sources we looked at, they really point out why this happens, don't they?
They do, yeah. The core problem, I think, is illuminated really clearly by Greg McKeown's insight. He basically says if you lack the self-discipline to consciously prioritize your own life and set boundaries, well, your time will inevitably get prioritized by other people. Simple as that.
Ah, so it's your inbox dictating your day, or your boss's latest request, social media pings, someone else's urgent problem. They just fill the vacuum.
Exactly. They step right in. So you're not really living your life. You're just reacting constantly to everyone else's demands on your time and energy.
Oh.
So keeping tossed around in the waves, like you said, instead of actually steering your own ship.
Right. And it's so easy to confuse that frantic reactivity, that hustle, with being disciplined. You
Yeah.
think, look how hard I'm working. I must be disciplined.
Yes. But the sources draw a really critical distinction here between that kind of chaotic busyness and structured, deliberate work.
Cal Newport talks about this quite a bit with his deep work ideas,
He
right?
does. He makes this powerful observation that a carefully planned, focused 40-hour work week can often produce the same, sometimes even more high-value output than some sprawling, reactive, disorganized 60 or 70-hour week that's just filled with context switching and distractions.
Wow, just think about that difference for a second. That's 20, maybe 30 hours a week potentially reclaimed.
It's huge. And this is where the connection to freedom becomes crystal clear. That hustle without direction approach. It makes you a slave to the next email, the next meeting ping, the next notification, somebody else's agenda. You're constantly just reacting.
Discipline.
Discipline puts you back in the driver's seat. It's about being proactive, not reactive. The goal isn't just more work or more activity. It's achieving more of what matters to you by being intentional, by taking control.
Yeah.
And that intentional control, ironically, is what buys you freedom.
Okay, so this completely flips the script on how most people think about discipline, which brings us to the really powerful, almost paradoxical idea at the heart of all this. Discipline equals freedom. How on earth does restricting yourself, following a structure, possibly lead to more freedom? It just feels counterintuitive.
It absolutely does on the surface. But it's the central truth that figures like Jocko Willink articulate so powerfully. His mantra, discipline equals freedom. He explains that freedom isn't just the absence of constraints. True, meaningful freedom, the kind you actually feel, is earned through discipline.
Earned. Okay, how do we see that play out? What are the examples from the sources?
Well, think about different kinds of freedom people want, like financial freedom. You're not being stressed about bills, having options, maybe retiring early. That absolutely requires financial discipline. Budgeting, saving consistently, making deliberate choices about spending, saying no to impulse buys. If you lack that discipline, you're basically a slave to debt, to financial worry. That's not freedom.
Or say physical freedom, just being able to hike, play with your kids without getting winded or feeling pain, having energy throughout the day. That needs discipline with exercise, with what you eat. Without it, you might be restricted by poor health or low energy. Right, it limits what you can actually do.
Precisely. And Willink applies this concept across the board. If you want more freedom in any area of your life, more time, better health, more creativity, more peace of mind, you have to apply discipline to get there.
Mm.
It's about having the discipline and, yeah, sometimes the courage to make deliberate choices, to prioritize the important things, and crucially, to say no to the things that don't serve your bigger goals or just distract you and eat up your time.
Okay, so saying no right now, which feels like an act of discipline, is actually saying yes to freedom down the road. James Clear, he's known for his work on habits, atomic habits. He talks about this connection too, doesn't he?
He does. His observation is really succinct. The discipline become the free. He points out that building consistent habits in those key areas is how you actually gain freedom in those domains. These habits, they aren't shackles. They're more like the infrastructure that supports your freedom.
Right, okay, this is crucial. How do habits, which feel like routine and structure, actually create freedom? Because that seems like the opposite.
Yeah, it does. But Clear gives a powerful explanation. Habits and routines don't stifle freedom. They create it. How? By automating the fundamental important tasks. Think about it. When you've built habits around, say, saving a certain amount each month, or exercising regularly, or tackling your most important work first thing, you free up enormous amounts of mental energy and willpower.
Ah, so you're not constantly fighting yourself, not constantly spending energy just deciding what to do, or forcing yourself to do the basic important things.
Exactly. Summaries of Clear's work often emphasize this. It's only by making the fundamentals of life easier that you can create the mental space needed for free thinking. Good habits put those important routines on autopilot. This leaves you with more mental bandwidth, more energy to be creative, solve complex problems, learn something new, connect with people, or even just to be present. Without that nagging stress of undone tasks hanging over you, it gives you back control over your attention, which is a massive part of freedom today.
And you mentioned earlier, this isn't just some modern pop philosophy idea. It has deeper roots.
Oh, absolutely. Deep roots. Over 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." For the Stoics, real freedom wasn't about external circumstances. It wasn't political liberty or having tons of stuff. It was internal. It was self-mastery.
So controlling your own internal state, your reactions, your impulses, that kind of thing.
Precisely. The Stoics argued that if you're a slave to your impulses, like to laziness, anger, the need for immediate pleasure, or constantly chasing external validation, you are not truly free. You're being controlled by forces outside your rational will. And modern thinkers like Willink and Clear are essentially, reviving this ancient insight. Disciplining yourself, mastering your impulses and choices is how you take back control from those external pressures and internal whims. That self-ownership is personal liberty.
And there's actual psychological science that backs this up too, which I find pretty fascinating.
It is fascinating. The link between self-discipline, autonomy, and just general well-being is really robustly supported by research. Self-determination theory, for instance, which is a widely accepted framework in psychology, identifies autonomy as a fundamental human need. Autonomy is that feeling of being the author of your own actions, making choices that align with your values and goals. It's crucial for psychological health.
And when we lack that feeling of autonomy, when we feel controlled.
We feel controlled, stressed, less motivated, and our well-being really suffers. Discipline, counterintuitively perhaps, actually enhances this feeling of autonomy. When you use discipline to stick to your planned priorities or the habits you've chosen, you're acting in line with what you decided was important. You're not just reacting to whatever pops up or whatever fleeting feeling you have in the moment. That sense of agency, like I am choosing this, I am doing what I decided matters, is incredibly empowering and satisfying.
That makes total sense. You're aligning what you do with what you intend, and that feels like freedom. You also mentioned a striking long-term study earlier.
Yes, the famous Dunedin study, a multi-decade longitudinal study that followed about 1,000 children from birth way into adulthood. It tracked various traits, including self-control, right from a very young age, and the results were, frankly, stark. Those kids with lower self-control in childhood were significantly more likely to experience major problems later in life.
Like what kind of problems?
Worse physical health, higher rates of substance addiction, more financial difficulties, and even a greater likelihood of criminal convictions.
And every single one of those things, health issues, addiction, debt, legal trouble, they are massive constraints on your freedom, aren't they? They severely limit your choices, your ability to direct your own life.
Exactly. So discipline, or self-control, in youth, acted as this powerful protective factor. It steered individuals away from paths that lead to those kinds of serious limitations on freedom. But what's even more hopeful, I think, is that the study also found that participants who managed to improve their self-control during adolescence and early adulthood, they ended up with much better health and financial security outcomes than their childhood scores would have predicted.
So it shows it's not fixed. Self-discipline isn't just something you either have or you don't. It can be developed.
Precisely. It can be developed, and that development has profound long-term benefits for your freedom and overall well-being.
Okay, so it's not just about avoiding the big life-derailing problems. It's also about improving your daily experience, right? Like, the sources talk about how discipline impacts everyday stress and energy levels.
Absolutely. Just take procrastination, for example. That's a classic manifestation of lower self-control, right?
Huh.
It doesn't just mean tasks don't get done on time. It actively creates stress, anxiety, and it chips away at your sense of control. A study from 2023 really highlighted this connection. It found that interventions specifically designed to strengthen self-discipline, well, they actually increase participants' autonomous motivation, that internal drive to act, and significantly reduce procrastination.
So tackling things head on through discipline, even the small stuff, makes you feel more capable, less anxious, and it frees up mental energy that was being drained by the burden of unfinished tasks.
Exactly. You basically trade the constant low-grade stress of feeling behind and out of control for the calm confidence that comes from knowing you're handling your responsibilities, that you're moving forward on your own terms, that feeling of being on top of things. That itself is incredibly liberating.
And crucially, this feels like a big relief. The sources suggest this doesn't require endless, painful willpower because, honestly, willpower feels exhausting.
It really does. It feels finite. And James Clear, among others, makes this point very clearly. People we perceive as highly disciplined, they often aren't just constantly grinding through these brute force willpower battles all day long. Their success comes more from something else, from smartly designing their environment and their habits so they actually need to use willpower less often.
Okay, so they're not constantly fighting temptation, they're setting things up so the good choices are just easier, and the bad choices are harder to make.
Exactly right. Think about it simply. If you don't want to mindlessly snack on junk food, the truly disciplined approach isn't just white-knuckling it past the pantry every hour. It's simply not having the junk food in the house in the first place,
Right.
or keeping it out of sight.
Right, or if you want to write consistently.
Yeah, the disciplined approach isn't forcing yourself to sit down when you feel zero motivation. It's maybe setting up your workspace the night before, closing all those distracting browser tabs before you even sit down, perhaps using an app that blocks social media for a set time.
They're minimizing the moments where they even have to rely on that limited resource, willpower.
Yes. They set up routines, cues, and physical surroundings that make the desired behavior the default path, the path of least resistance. And they make the undesired behavior more difficult. This isn't about being inherently stronger-willed. It's about being strategically smarter. And that strategy liberates you from the constant internal conflict, the decision fatigue. It makes discipline feel less like a struggle and more like a natural flow.
That definitely makes discipline feel much more accessible. Okay, so for someone listening right now, maybe deep in that hustle trap we talked about, feeling overwhelmed and definitely not free, what are the key tactical insights? What do these sources suggest we actually start doing to apply this idea?
Okay, yeah. The sources offer several really practical strategies for building this kind of freedom-generating discipline. The first one is pretty fundamental. Focus on what matters most. You need to identify the specific areas in your life where you most crave more freedom. Is it financial security? Better health? Finding time for a creative passion? Or maybe stronger relationships?
Right. Don't try to suddenly become perfectly disciplined in every single area of your life overnight. That's just a recipe for feeling overwhelmed and giving up.
Exactly. Choose your battles wisely. As Clear and others suggest, commit to building consistent habits, specifically in those few key areas. Avoid diluting your energy and your limited discipline reserves across too many things at once. Focus on the vital few actions that will actually unlock the specific freedom you're seeking.
Got it. Prioritize where discipline will give you the biggest freedom payoff. Makes sense. What's the next tactic?
The second one is plan your time deliberately. Don't just let your day happen to you, reacting to whatever comes in via your inbox or calendar notifications. The sources really emphasize taking control by actively planning your day or your week ahead. Methods like time blocking, where you actually schedule specific blocks of time for specific tasks, including focused work and important things like exercise or even free time, can be incredibly effective. Or even just starting with a really detailed, prioritized to-do list. The act of planning forces you to think about where your time is actually going before it just disappears.
And this goes right back to that Cal Newport point about the power and efficiency of planned time versus chaotic time, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Giving your hours a purpose reduces stress, it minimizes wasted time between tasks, and it ensures that time for your priorities is actually scheduled and protected. Try the simple discipline of spending maybe 10 minutes each evening planning tomorrow. It reveals where you realistically have time and allows you to budget your time, kind of like you budget money. Remember that insight. 40 well-planned hours can be way more potent than 60 chaotic ones. Planning itself is an act of discipline that multiplies the value of your time.
That shift from constantly reacting to proactively planning feels like a huge step towards reclaiming that ownership. Okay, what about saying no? That came up earlier.
Yes, that's the third critical strategy. Learn to say no to protect your time. And honestly, this can be one of the hardest disciplines to cultivate, especially if you're someone who tends to be a people pleaser. But you have to realize, every single time you agree to something that doesn't truly align with your identified priorities or your core values, you are essentially giving away a piece of your time and energy. You're giving away a piece of your potential freedom.
It definitely feels uncomfortable in the moment saying no. But the long-term cost of saying yes to everything is actually huge, isn't it?
It is enormous. The sources, echoing figures like Jocko Willink, really highlight the discipline required to say no to things that just eat up your time with little or no real payback towards your goals. This could be low-priority requests from others, unnecessary meetings, or even just mindlessly scrolling social media when you actually intended to read or work on something important. Setting those boundaries, saying no, creates the necessary space and energy for the people, the projects, and the activities that genuinely contribute to your sense of freedom and purpose.
So saying no to the non-essential really is saying yes to the essential. Okay, these are great principles, but how do we actually get started? How do we build these new habits without getting discouraged?
Right. That brings us neatly to the fourth strategy, which draws heavily from James Clear's work. Start small. Be consistent. This is key. Discipline isn't built through these huge, monumental, often painful efforts that burn you out quickly. It's built more like a muscle through frequent, manageable actions performed consistently over time. The real power is in starting incredibly small and just maintaining that consistency day after day.
So make it almost ridiculously easy to start the habit, like lower the bar way down.
Exactly. If you want to read more, maybe commit to reading just 1 page a day. If you want to exercise, maybe just do 5 minutes of stretching or 10 push-ups. If you want to write, commit to writing just 1 sentence or for 2 minutes. Clear's 2-minute rule is perfect for this. Make the habit take 2 minutes or less to start. The initial goal isn't massive progress. It's just to show up consistently. Frequency builds the habit loop in your brain and reinforces your identity as someone who does that thing. Every small, consistent action is like, as Clear says, casting a vote for your new identity as a disciplined person. Consistency beats intensity, especially early on.
That definitely makes it feel less intimidating. Okay, and the final tactical insight, it ties back to not needing that endless willpower, right?
Yes, the fifth strategy is design your environment for success. This is perhaps the most powerful lever you have for reducing the daily reliance on willpower. Instead of constantly battling yourself in the moment, you proactively structure your surroundings and your daily routines to make the desired behavior the easy default path and the undesired behavior more difficult or inconvenient.
So literally setting up your physical space or your digital space to support the habit you want to build.
Yes, simple things. Put your running shoes right by the door. Leave the book you want to read open on your bedside table. Clear your desk completely before you finish work so it's inviting for focus time the next morning. If you're trying to eat healthier, maybe prep some healthy snacks in advance and put them front and center in the fridge while hiding the tempting stuff. Remember, people with high self-control aren't necessarily heroes with infinite willpower. They've often just structured their lives to encounter temptation less often. They make the disciplined choice the easy or automatic choice.
Engineering your world to make discipline simpler. That sounds genuinely freeing in itself.
It really is. because it frees you from that constant internal battle, that decision fatigue, and allows you to conserve your precious mental energy for more meaningful pursuits. Use cues and tools to help reminders on your phone, habit tracking apps, checklists, your calendar. Make the system work for you. Discipline becomes less about a strenuous fight and more about running a smart system.
Okay, fantastic. So, to bring this all together and give you, listening right now, something really concrete to work with immediately, here's an action challenge based on these tactical insights. First, think about one specific area in your life where you currently feel most constrained, most reactive, least free. Maybe it's your finances, maybe it's your physical energy levels, maybe it's finding time for that passion project, or maybe it's just feeling scattered and stressed all the time. Pinpoint one area.
Okay, now choose just one incredibly small habit related to that area, something you could realistically do every single day, even on a bad day. Something that takes maybe 5 minutes or less, like tracking your spending for 5 minutes, doing 10 push-ups, writing one paragraph, reading one page of a book, spending 5 minutes tidying your main workspace before you quit for the day. Just one tiny thing.
And then, for just this coming week, just 7 days, commit to applying those two strategies we just talked about. Start small and be consistent and design your environment to this one tiny habit. Make it stupidly easy to do. Put the notebook and pen out the night before. Leave the push-up mat right where you'll see it. Set a recurring timer on your phone as a cue. Don't aim for perfection. Don't beat yourself up if you miss a day. Just aim for consistent action on that one small thing most days this week.
That's the challenge. One small act of discipline focused on one area where you want more freedom, supported by making it as easy as possible to execute. Just see what happens. See how it feels.
So, to kind of summarize what we've really unpacked today, discipline isn't some kind of punishment you inflict on yourself. It's actually an essential form of self-care. It's self-care for your future self. It's the process of taking deliberate ownership of your time, your energy, your choices, instead of just letting your day or, frankly, your life just sort of happen to you. When you define what's truly important to you and then apply consistent, even small effort towards those things, you start to escape that exhausting trap of constant reactivity and always feeling behind.
Yeah, and what you cultivate instead is this profound sense of agency,
Yeah.
of calm, of capability. Those discipline choices that might feel like small restrictions in the moment, like getting up 30 minutes earlier for quiet work time, or planning your with on Sunday evening, or saying no to a low-value request, they aren't really restrictions, they're investments.
And those investments, they pay massive dividends down the line. Dividends in the form of more freedom. Freedom from financial stress, freedom from the background anxiety of undone tasks, freedom from the guilt of neglecting important relationships or your own health, and maybe most importantly, the freedom to actually spend your precious time, energy, and attention on what truly brings you joy, what gives you meaning, and what moves you demonstrably towards the life you actually want to live.
That relentless hustle culture often tells you that just being busy, packing your schedule is the key. But the sources we explored today, they paint a very different and I think much more powerful picture. A disciplined life is actually a life that is selective. It's purpose-driven. It's one where you take deliberate ownership of your most precious, non-renewable resources, which are ultimately your time and your energy.
And when you have that ownership, that control over your time and energy, you really have the foundation to build a life that isn't just busy, but is truly full, balanced, and ultimately free.
So, maybe a final thought to leave you with, building on everything we've discussed. Consider where in your life you currently feel most trapped, most reactive, most not free. What single tiny act of discipline starting today, supported by making it easy, could begin to unlock just a little bit of freedom in that specific area for you?
Remember that core idea, maybe Jocko Willink's version. If you want more freedom, get more discipline. It's not the barrier, it's actually the key to unlocking the life you truly desire.